Megan, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well, and welcome to Mindful Mums at Crossroads
Thank
Cafe.
you. Thank you for
It's
having me.
it's lovely. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I've been following you on Instagram, watching what you're doing, looking at what you're all about. Super inspiring mum.
Thank
So I
you.
can't wait to have a chat with you and learn from you, hear the lessons and the experiences, and all that kind of stuff. So just a quick introduction to the podcast. We started out as Crossroads Cafe a couple of years back. The podcast started because there was lots of mums at home. There was lots of women that were faced with, being out of the office or out of their day-to-day job in the house at home,
Yeah.
questioning what they were doing, if they were happy with their career. Um, and as a coach, I had lots of women coming to me asking me questions around, I'm not happy with where I am. I don't know what I want to do. I want to start a new business. I don't know what that looks like. So that was the reason for starting Crossroads Cafe. It was like we were at this crossroads and we didn't know what way to go. It's evolved a little bit since then. Well, it's evolved quite a bit since then. Because one thing I started to recognize was a lot of these women that were mums were really struggling at the beginning part of that process. So whether that was they were doubting themselves, they didn't have the clarity, they were lacking confidence, they were concerned of what other people might have to say if they was to step out there and do this thing. So we now have developed Mindful Mums, which is all about inspiring mums, and helping mums navigate the ups and downs of life so they better manage their thoughts and their emotions, and they better understand themselves and their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sound
So
good?
important. So important. Yes.
Very
Very passionate about
relatable.
that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I
Yes.
thought that.
Yes.
That's like when I saw your handle on Instagram, I thought I've got to speak to this woman because I totally felt that. So it's great to have you here. And like I said, I've been checking you out a bit, and I've heard from you. We've been in contact. I hear and I see that you're big into your personal development, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's something, it's funny because, had you asked me this question even 3 years ago, I would have probably laughed and said, like, I don't need self-help books. That's ridiculous. That was truly what I thought personal development was. It was, people who had big problems read self-help books. That's what I thought it was. And when I got into my wellness accountability coaching, I was coached myself, and it was really recommended to start personal development. And so I kind of, at the beginning, I was like, okay, well, I like to follow, somebody tells me I should do something, I'm going to do it. And so I started off with, what I like to call some of the easier, lighter personal development. So like the Rachel Hollis books, Girl Wash Your Face, Girl Stop Apologizing. And
Mm.
it made me realize it's so much more than that. It's not necessarily self-help. It can really just be something to pump you up, to make you realize you're capable of so much more, and that you can do things that you maybe didn't think were possible, or think outside the box, and kind of force you to sort of break out of your everyday routine and give you that sort of confidence.
Yeah.
And so that was how I started. And then I've always been a good student. I love to learn, so I kind of
Yeah.
eventually worked my way into things that were anything to help me improve myself in any way, shape, or form, whether it was mental health or a
Yeah.
skill, or a habit. So that's kind of how it's evolved.
That's fantastic. And I just want to say, so you're in Canada at the moment, aren't you? You
I
reside in
am, yes,
Canada.
yes,
You got two
just outside of
boys.
Ottawa. Two boys,
Yeah.
yes. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. So
Wow.
they keep me on my toes.
They keep you busy. So let me ask,
Yes.
what led you to that coaching in the first place? What was it that, what happened for you to go, right, I want to adopt this coaching, this accountability coaching?
So it started out, was it after my first? Yes. So my firstborn was about 10 months old. And I had always, my entire life, dabbled, I guess, in fitness in some way, shape, or form, not necessarily always with a very healthy perspective. For a lot of my life, it was something I dreaded, something I had to do.
Mm,
Pre-COVID, I ended up finding a type of workout that I like, that I actually started teaching classes,
mm,
which was fantastic. But then the pandemic happened, and that sort of came to an end. I wasn't able to teach my classes anymore. So I
mm,
shifted to doing workouts from home, which was a huge
mm,
adjustment, right? When you're teaching a class,
mm.
you have to show up. That's
Yeah.
that's ultimate accountability. But when it comes to having to, walk down to your basement and hit play, it's a little bit harder to get yourself to do that. And so I actually myself joined an accountability community that sort of um, helps keep you consistent. Helps support, helps all the members support one another and staying consistent, provides tips and tricks and so on. And that sort of got me into a good routine, and I was really liking it. But then I was about to go back to work, and I thought, oof, this is going to be a challenge. I need something to keep me accountable. And I'm the type of
Mm,
person, I will let myself down a million times over, but I will never let somebody
mm.
else down. And so
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe I should get into this accountability coaching, because if I am helping other people stay accountable,
Mm,
I myself better be staying consistent. And so that was kind of how I got into it. It was kind of a selfish venture at first, more
yeah.
to help keep me on track, and then it evolved, and I just really grew to love helping people fall in love with the process rather
Yeah.
than dread it. Help them realize the mental health benefits that come from sort of staying active, and the ability to do it from home when you have kids. That's a
Yeah.
game changer. You're not trying to find a sitter or beat
Yeah.
traffic, and so that was how I ended up there.
I love it when you talk about selfish. There's a guy that I've done a few webinars with recently, and he talks about this good selfish and how we need to be good selfish, because all of us mums do
Yes.
that, right? We're forever saying yes to everybody else,
Hmm.
but we say no to ourselves. Not, physically or verbally say no
Yeah.
to ourselves, but we're always putting the things that we want to achieve or the things that we want to do at the back of the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Oh,
it's
for
like
sure.
we're trying to give from an empty cup, aren't we? Because
Yes.
we're pissed off. We're pissed off because we've not
Yes,
got any
it's
time for ourselves.
resentful and
Yeah,
exactly exhausted.
yeah,
It starts to feel like a hamster wheel that you can't get off of. And it's so important. I forget where, but the term was unapologetically selfish.
mm,
And like, sometimes that term gets a little bit of backlash, because there are people who will think that means, neglect your family. And by no means, does that mean that. It just means you've got to put a little bit of gas in your tank, so that you can then take care of everybody else. Otherwise, if you're continually putting yourself on the back burner, at some point you're going to be forced to take a step back,
mm,
whether it be from burnout or illness or
yes,
something along those lines. And so if you can just keep putting a little
mm,
bit of gas in that tank, just to keep you going, it's so much better. It's so much better for everybody in your family, not
you're
just the
right.
mom, but the whole
Yeah,
family.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. And I love that you say that unapologetically selfish, because again, I think as mums, we're always looking at other people and thinking, if we do too much to us for ourselves, what are other people going to have to say?
Yes.
What are other
Yeah.
people going to think?
Yeah.
um who does she think she is type thing. It's that fearing other people's opinions, so we tend to
Mhm.
try and maybe stick doing as little as we can for ourselves and so much more for everybody else, because we want to be liked, we want to be
Yep.
seen to
Yeah.
be doing the right thing, right?
Yeah. 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 Mothers, we become martyrs, right? We just
Mm,
we just feel the need to take on everybody's burden and do everything for everybody else. And society has made it so that if you don't do that, you are
yeah,
a bad mom. And I just think it's such a negative a negative thing that we collectively need to work ourselves out of, and make it the
yeah,
norm that moms take some time to take care of themselves.
definitely. Yeah, I love that. And that's what we're all about. We're all about that, encouraging mums to do just that. Because
Yeah.
our mental and our emotional health, I'm always talking, it's not only just our thoughts, it's our feelings.
Yep.
Um, and it's important, because if we're feeling rubbish or we're anxious or we're stressed, we're just in a terrible place, aren't
For
we?
sure.
We're in a
Definitely.
really bad place.
everybody else ends up taking the brunt of it, right? I know if
Mm,
I'm feeling particularly anxious or frustrated or angry, I'm quicker to, react. I
mm,
have less
mm,
patience for my kids, my husband,
mm,
I'm a bit angrier towards everybody. So
mm.
this is why it's so important for moms to take care of themselves, because everybody else really does benefit. I'm sure if you
Definitely.
tell husbands everywhere, partners everywhere, if you just let mom have half hour, 45
Yeah.
minutes to herself to do what she wants, whether it's
Yeah.
read or exercise, it's everybody's going to be happier.
Yeah. It's
It's a
true.
win-win
It's true.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true. I think it's got to be led by us though, right? We've got to take a
of
stand.
course, for
We've got to
sure.
be
That's,
the
oh,
the
for sure.
stronger party, or the strong
A
party, and
hundred
going, right, this is
percent.
what I need.
And I think that's a huge issue, is that as moms, we're so afraid, not afraid, we tend to not ask for what we want. We
Mm,
kind of wait for somebody to say, hey, why don't you go take that 30 minutes, or why don't you go take
mm,
a spa day, or whatever those things are. And you've got to take some initiative yourself. You've got to,
mm,
you're never just going to find time magically. You have to make it, and that includes asking for help and just
mm.
making your family aware of what you need to take care of yourself, so you can then ultimately take care of them. And I think a lot of us moms are terrible at asking for that help.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Um, okay, so what would you say? Because so what I'm hearing, and I love this because it is around this personal development. Because personal development doesn't, it can be reading a book. There's so many um sort of legs to it, isn't there, when it comes to
Yep.
personal development? Um, and I think sometimes people don't even understand what that term means, do they? They're like, what is
No,
that?
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, no, it's true.
so you, when you talk about personal development, you talk about it started off with your you reading the Rachel Hollis book.
Yeah.
And then you say you've moved in a little bit more to what you would class as maybe a bit more difficult personal development. Just tell me what that looks like for you, what that
So it's
is, what you
usually
mean by that.
related to dealing with any issues I'm living through at a given point in time. So I'll try to find books that are less, I call the Rachel Hollis books a bit more of a, like, rah rah rah, pump everybody up type books. And I've shifted a bit more towards ones that will teach me either how to do something. So a lot of books, I love habits, I love routine, I love organization. So trying to improve those skills. So for example, like Atomic Habits, but also ones that are a bit more along sort of the psychotherapy line, in terms of addressing, just like, I suffer from anxiety, perfectionism. And so just sort of finding out what the root cause of those
Yeah,
things can be, and
yeah,
learning how to cope with them, learning how to manage them. So sort of some books more along that line. And I call those
yeah,
sort of the more difficult books, because it's uncomfortable. Those are
yeah,
uncomfortable things to have to talk about. A lot of people
yes,
are ashamed to talk about it, or difficult
yes,
things to actually work through. Um, so that's kind of part of it. And the other thing that I would say I consider personal development is therapy. I
yes,
truly believe everybody should have therapy.
yes,
Whether, you seem relatively in a good space or not, I think there's always a benefit to having a conversation with somebody who's completely unbiased and has no link or
agenda.
relationship to
Yeah,
anybody in your life. You can really get that unbiased opinion, or just
yeah,
just to even talk things through. So I find
yeah.
I think that's a huge type of personal development that everybody should do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I love what you say with regards to just, books. If someone's thinking, I want to get out of this state of panic or anxiety or fear or worry, and they don't know where to start, it can just be going out and grabbing a book. Get a book
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that you can sit down and you can spend 5, 10 minutes before you go to bed reading, that's just
Hmm.
going to help you understand you a bit better.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what therapy does as well, right? When you're out there
Yeah.
and you're speaking and you're getting everything, all those suppressed emotions, or those trauma that we've had in our past that's been suppressed because we haven't spoke about it, we haven't released it as
Hmm.
such, that all comes back to play havoc with our life, right?
Of course, for sure, for sure.
um
Sometimes just, you ultimately, I find sometimes in my sessions, I'll actually talk things out myself. I will solve my own problem, but it's just a matter of, you know, spitballing with
Yeah.
my therapist, and it kind of it works itself out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So what would you say are some of your biggest lessons to date? Being a mom, I know you say you work full time, you've got your accountability coaching business on the side. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Um, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you've experienced to date that you can share with
I
other
would
mums?
say it for me, it definitely has to do with perfectionism. I tend to, I'm terrible at saying no.
Mm,
Whether I want to do something or not, I don't like to let people down. So I will always say yes. I will feel that I have to do everything, and I have to do everything 110% and
mm,
on time, and so on and so forth. And so that actually becomes, it's paralyzing, right? It can be
mm,
so paralyzing when it becomes an overwhelming feeling. And
mm,
so with being so busy, I had to learn to kind of, not everything has to be done right now. You know,
mm,
you can have goals, you can have aspirations, you can want your house to be tidy, you can maybe not want your house to be tidy, you know, all of those things. You can have it all, just not necessarily at the same time. And
mm.
I was thinking about
Yes.
this morning, actually, on the way home from daycare. I used
Mm,
to interpret that expression, you can have it all, just not at the same time, to mean you can have it all in your lifetime, just not at the same time. So while you're a mom, it should be 100% mom. If you have career goals or, you know, entrepreneurial goals or so on and so forth, that has to come
okay.
later in life after your kids. And I listened to this a speech that Shonda Rhimes made at a university commencement, and she referenced that expression, you can have it all, just not at the same time. But that actually applies minute to minute, day to day. You
Mm,
know, you can find a way to balance it all. You just can't be 100% at every given thing at the same
mm.
time. So today,
Yes. Yeah.
maybe you're 100%, 110% fantastic mom. Tomorrow, you know,
Mm,
maybe the kids had hot dogs for supper because you had a huge deadline at work. So you can have it all. It's just a day to day juggling
yeah.
act, and that's okay.
Yes,
I
I
think so
love
many
that.
moms get
That's
in this
okay.
perfectionist mindset where it's like, I have
Mm,
to be the perfect mom. My kids, you know, everything has to be perfect. They are only going to eat carrots, and they're never going to watch their iPads, and so on and so forth. And it's like, it's okay. It's
mm,
okay. Every day is a balancing act. And, you know, as you're juggling it, some things will, you know, slip through the cracks, and that's
yeah.
okay.
I love that you
And I
say
think
that.
that's a huge thing I had to learn, that, you know, not everything has to be 100% perfect every single day, because it all kind of works out in the wash. You know, if you think of it over the course of a week, a month, a year, a
Mm,
couple bad days aren't going to be the end of the world. So that was a huge thing
yeah.
I had to come to terms with, really, as a perfectionist, that it's okay.
Yeah. I love that you said that at
Yeah.
the very end because that's what was going on in my head. That's okay.
Yeah,
Um, and it leads, doesn't it? The perfectionism certainly is linked to anxiety.
for sure.
And that
Absolutely.
definitely increases the anxiety. Um, and there's that guilt then, isn't there? It's like, especially if you're that way inclined to want to get everything right. And, I do love a list, and it does feel really rewarding once you get everything off of that
Mhm.
list. But then you could go back over that list and go, yeah, I did that, but I didn't do it maybe to the best of my
Yeah.
ability. Or I did that, but I
Yeah.
didn't, you know, I wasn't present when I was doing that. I was also doing that. So
Exactly.
you're picking faults in
Yes.
everything, constantly putting
Absolutely.
yourself down, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a vicious circle in a way. And and it's, you know, that's actually a perfect example of something. There's probably a personal development podcast or book or something out there
Mm,
that would help with those different things. There's always something you can do to learn or improve or learn how to cope
yes.
with those types of things. And especially the list thing made me laugh. I am obsessed with lists. I love lists. My lists have lists, and they have lists. But again, it's a vicious circle, because you can go to bed at night, or you can not go to bed at night because you haven't finished your list, and you get in this
Mm,
sort of mindset where, you know, I can't rest until it's all done.
mm, mm.
But there's always going to be something on that list. And so you have to learn to find a cutoff point,
Yes,
and everything else can wait till tomorrow. So
definitely.
it's a hard balance to strike as a perfectionist, as somebody that struggles with anxiety. I find the more anxious I get, I feel the need to get more done. It's like
Yes,
I'm trying to
yes.
calm my anxiety by being more productive, but that's also making me more anxious because I don't have
Mm,
enough time. And then
yeah,
it's just such
yeah,
a vicious circle.
yeah. I hear you. There's a great guy, and I'm trying to think who it was. I read his book, and he talks about scrappy being the new perfect. So that's one thing I'm forever reminding myself now. Actually, and when I say scrappy, I don't mean it being a mess, but I mean just being authentic, just
Yeah.
being who you are, because we're not perfect.
No.
Nothing's ever perfect. And I think if we can embrace our uniqueness and actually go, yeah, I'm good at that, but maybe I'm not so good at that,
Yeah.
or I can do that quite well, but I struggle with that. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And that's
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that made me think too, like, and I'm fully aware not everybody, has this capability. It's a luxury, but outsourcing what you can. Like, you don't have to
Mm,
do it all. I think moms, um, either within relationships or just in terms of hired help, either or,
mm,
we feel this need that we have to do
mm,
everything because we do it better. We do it
mm,
right. And nobody
mm.
else can possibly do it right. And sure, my point of view is usually, yeah, I do it better, but that doesn't mean I have to be the one to do it. It's
Yeah.
okay to either
Mm,
ask for help. If you're able to, it's okay to hire help.
mm,
Whatever fits in your situation, and then you can focus your energy a bit more on the things you're really good at,
mm,
also the things you actually enjoy.
mm. Yeah.
Because you have to, I think, especially as moms, so many people get consumed with motherhood and forget that they are an individual,
Mm,
a person,
mm,
you know, aside from being a mom, I think.
mm.
Um, and it's because I think a lot of the time it's because it's a time issue, right? And there's not
Mm,
as much time to take care of ourselves or do the things we love. And so it's
mm.
on us to figure that out. It's
Yeah,
on us to,
yeah,
ask for help
yeah,
or move things around so that we can do that
yeah,
and enjoy our time.
yeah, definitely. That comes down to self-awareness, doesn't it? We need to be
Mhm.
aware of ourselves, and we need to be aware of where we're spending our time. I think, um, yeah, in light of what you said, just being a bit more aware of putting, when I say putting ourselves first, actually, that actually makes me feel quite uncomfortable saying it
Yeah.
because I'm not used to
Yeah.
doing that. But even just having a think about the things that you value, the things that you like to do, and trying to introduce some of those things
Mhm.
into your routine. There's lots of little things that we can do to become a bit more self-aware, ask ourselves some better questions around what we value, embrace the things that we're really good at. Um,
Yeah.
and maybe do them a bit more. So we have this, we're building our self-belief, we're building our confidence, because
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that's going to positively impact our life, and it's going to help us, which means if we feel better, we're going to have more to give and to help
For
others, right?
sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Mm,
think also, on that note, one thing that moms especially seem to do when they put themselves completely on the back burner, give up their hobbies, give up the things that they value, give up their joys, and it feels like they're doing the right thing, but then I'll often say to them, or if they have a little girl,
mm,
what example are you setting? Like, she may grow up
mm,
then and become a mom herself who
mm.
thinks that's what she needs to do. So
That's
if you
okay.
almost
Yeah,
flip the perspective and say, okay,
yeah,
what example do you want to set for your kids to
yes,
show them that it's okay to take care of themselves and that it's okay to put themselves first every once in a while? I find a lot of people when they flip that perspective,
mm,
and it becomes ultimately, when taking care of yourself is about taking care of your kids, it's a little bit easier to do that. It alleviates some of that guilt. So I
yeah.
find that's a good perspective to have.
Yeah, what advice would you give to others? That's it, isn't it? What
Yeah.
advice would you give to your child that you could
Yeah.
take on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. So what are the plans for the future for you? What have you got going on in your life? Your children are very young, so obviously you know
Yes.
you're busy raising them, but you have a wellness and accountability, or a wellness accountability coaching community. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I would love, I mean, like I mentioned, I really do that on the side. And sometimes I have a lot of guilt associated with that because I can't give as much time to it as I would like, right? I have by the time I have my family and the house and the kids and so on and so forth, there's not a lot of time. And I take on this sort of guilt or burden of, these people have put their trust in me. They've signed up with me, and now
Mm,
maybe they feel like I'm not giving them as much
mm,
as I should be, which is probably, I think, probably all in my head. But
mm,
I would love to be able to expand that and put more energy and more focus onto that,
mm,
and maybe expand it beyond just the accountability. I love meal planning and prepping,
mm,
and so it would be fantastic to sort of design and come up with different tools, whether that be, on the planning side or the prepping side or both, sort of expand into that area would be really fantastic, because I think it's also an area that a lot of people struggle with, sort of
yeah.
getting themselves set up for the week with their meals, and how much easier that can make things go when you're, in the busyness of the week. So I would really just ultimately like to expand that. I'm the type of person, I'm kind of like in this weird middle zone when it comes to whether or not I would want to own, leave my government job and have my own business. There's days where part of me is like, yes, I want to have my own business. I want to work for myself. I want to have that freedom. But then there's also this very risk averse part of me that's like, you have a secure, stable job.
Mm,
You should do that. And so I find I'm always in
mm,
this weird limbo. So I don't know that I actually have an answer to that question in that sense of the future. I think it's one of those things that um, I'm going to have to see how it plays out. And again, one of those things, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
mm,
As the kids get a little bit older, it might be a little bit easier to, spend
mm,
just like 10, 15 more minutes a day, over
mm,
time that can add up. So
mm,
that's kind of what I'm thinking, because I just really, for me, when it comes to, like, going back to mothers taking time for things that they're passionate about or that they value or find joy in, for
mm,
me, that is taking the time, for my daily workout. It's more so for my mental health above all things.
mm,
That's the main reason. It has such a big impact on my mood,
mm.
and I really like to help others get to the point where they feel the same, where
They
it's
feel,
not the,
yeah,
ugh, I have to
yeah,
work out. It's the like, oh, hey, I need this workout to
yeah,
to release some stress or to improve my mood. And so
yeah,
I really just I enjoy it when people get to that point, and
yeah.
so I'd love to keep doing that.
I love that. I love the meal prep stuff. I'll be on your case about that because I don't do
Yes,
that.
please do.
I don't do that. And it's one of those things, to be fair, that, like it's when it's school pickup time, then I'm thinking there's food in the fridge, in the cupboards, but then I'm thinking, right, what am I gonna,
Gonna do
it's
with
some,
it.
yeah, it's then I'm thinking, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do? And that's another, it's not a stress, it's something, we all need to eat, but it's something else to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Whereas I could
Yeah.
free that mental space of, right, what am I gonna do
Exactly.
now? And have that prepped before. So I love the sound of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. My it's funny, my husband last weekend, I think I was doing so I have a very specific process that I follow for my planning, and then my grocery list and my groceries and my prep. It's all very systematic. I'm trying to find a way to, make that a thing.
Right.
And so my husband goes, "Do you not like find that takes way more time? Like you spend half hour at the kitchen table, making all of these lists, and I just don't understand how that saves you time." And I'm like, "Well, not only does it save me time, it saves us money, because
Yeah.
when I go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
I know what I'm eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all week.
It's all
And
there.
that's all I'm buying. I'm not
Yeah.
just winging it and like, oh, here's some broccoli, here's some asparagus that's all going to
Yeah.
rot in the fridge. I'm only buying the produce that I know I need for the meals I've planned.
Yeah.
And I don't know what what grocery prices are like over
They're
there,
going
but
up.
things have gotten so expensive.
Yeah.
And so the less waste, the better. So I
Yeah.
find, there's so many benefits beyond just freeing up that mental space. It can help with saving money.
Yeah.
It can help, help you make more nutritious choices.
Yeah.
If you've got your snacks and your lunches sort of planned and prepped in the fridge, you're more likely
Yeah.
to grab that than a bag of chips. Most of the time, not all the time.
Yes.
Sometimes I
I
still grab that bag of chips.
chips. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
great. So do you have your containers, everything's in the fridge, ready to go. You spend a
Yeah.
day, do you cook what would you spend like a day
Well,
cooking or
couple hours. Like it used to take me a lot longer. I've really sort of come up with a process, but
yeah,
I'll Saturday mornings while I have my coffee, I'll make my meal plan for the week, and then I'll go back through it and check what I have in the fridge and sort of figure out what I need for groceries. Then I make a list of what I need to prep. And so then on Sundays while I'm having my coffee and the kids are having breakfast, I'll just cook
get
as
it
much as
done.
I can, especially for breakfasts and lunches, and I go ahead and I wash and cut all the produce so that when it comes time to making dinner during the week, I just
You
have to cook it. I
cook it
don't need to,
brilliant.
yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I have containers for everything, and it really just helps streamline the process a little.
Oh, that brings me goosebumps because that's really organized. I love organization, so that makes me feel really good.
I'm very obsessed with organization, sometimes to a fault.
Yeah. Oh, Megan, it's been so lovely chatting to you. If people want to hear more
Yes, thank
about
you.
if people want to hear more about your accountability coaching, how can they get hold of you? Is it Instagram?
Instagram's the best, yeah. And I often, in my posts or my stories, I do cover a lot of meal prep. I try to come up with a tip for planning or prep every week or two. So that's on there
Brilliant.
as well, if you want to check that out. But yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. Well, what I'll do, I'll make sure I link through to your Instagram page, so that people can get hold of you there, and follow you. And I just want to say thanks for being really inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing some of your tips and tricks with us, and just being really authentic, and natural to who you are.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. And if you are a mom listening, go do something for yourself. It's not selfish.
There we
It's
go.
good selfish.
Good selfish. We love a bit of good selfish.
Yeah,
Take care,
yeah.
Megan, and thanks for listening,
Thank
everyone.
you. You
See you
too.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.